Right, there's two ways that you can do this, right? You guys can use your calculators, or you can use the Excel spreadsheet. When we Excel, okay, the first thing that you would do is you set up your columns for X and Y. So my X's were 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. My corresponding Y's were 3, 28, 40, 37, and 26. Okay, and then we're going to set up our graph. So we highlight our cells. Again, we don't even need to label them X and Y. We just highlight our cells, hit Insert, and choose the scatter. And we're going to insert a scatter plot of this information. So you can see right here in looking at these points, do these fit the pattern or model of a linear or a straight line? No, because it goes up and then back down here. So it fits the model of a parabola or a quadratic model. Okay, so what we can do is if we highlight or right-click on one of these points and choose Add Trendline, just like what we did with the regression or the linear regression. Except the default setting is linear. We saw that that wasn't linear. It's a parabola. The parabola is a second-degree polynomial. So the order or the degree means that the highest power is a 2. So we change that, make sure that that's set to a 2. Identify that we do want it to display the equation. And when we close it, we see our answer. So this is our equation, and it's exactly the same as what we got on our calculators. And now, the advantage to using Excel is it's faster. Like this is a lot easier. It's easier to save it and manipulate it and make changes to things. And the disadvantage is in evaluating the equation. So if we wanted to evaluate this equation right here to, let's say, the nearest hundredth, okay, what I would encourage you to do if you're evaluating on Excel, the nice thing with the calculator, when you evaluate it, you're using the exact equation. So you don't even need to worry about rounding or anything until the very end. With this one, if you rounded your answer here to just the nearest tenth or nearest hundredth, and then you plugged in your number, you might be off a little bit on your calculation. So what I would encourage you to do is if it asks you to round to the nearest hundredth, when you write your equation, use 2 decimals beyond that. And so when you use this, make sure everything is written to 4 decimals. And now we can see right here that this second term, this b value, is only written to 3. So there is a way that you can change these and manipulate them. And so if you right-click, or if you can double-click on the cell box for this equation, not the equation itself, but on the box that contains this. So if you double-click on that box, and you're able to format it, so we can change the number and identify how many decimal places we want it to move. So I want 4 decimal places. Now that gives me this equation. And so now, if you want to evaluate this, we can copy this equation. We can place it into another cell. And then you just need to turn it into an equation for Excel to read. So hit an equal. And then everywhere there was an x, you replace it with the number that you're evaluating for. So let's say we want to test for that when x is 10. Okay. I'll have to see, this may or may not read it as multiplying, but let's take a look. We need to make sure that we have multiplying specifically identified in here. And when we hit enter, we get our number. So now notice this already you can see is different than what we got in the exact numbers for the calculator. So it's off by just a little bit. Now I'm still rounding to the nearest hundredth, so I get negative 0.20, which is what I got on the other thing. But on the other one in the calculator it was on the calculator it was negative 2.0000. And so do be careful if you're using Excel. When you evaluate it, the numbers are often off a little bit if you're not careful. Okay. Right, so for this one, I'll talk about the Excel spreadsheet first, because again, I'll show you how easy it is to make changes. Okay, so if you look at this, all of these values here are dynamically tied. right, with the exception of this one. Right? And so if you highlight this graph, just around the box of it, you can see what data sets are included in the equation. Okay, so as long as you have everything correct, you're good. If you need to add one more set of data, you can just drag it down to include that and add it in the box. Okay, but you can adjust it if you need to. So the only thing I need to adjust here are my y values. All the x's are the same. So I'll change my y values to 4, 23, 30, 25, and 7. And notice that as I did that, my actual graph and the equation made the changes automatically. So here's my new answer for that equation. Yep.
So what's the trend line that you want? Yeah.
What do you mean? This would be the trend line here.
Yeah, I know, but the...
Oh, the or how many decimal places?
No, for the line that shows the line of it.
So what would you write there?
No, so how did you get...
Oh, how do you...
Yeah.
Well, this one I just left it from our previous one.
Oh, how did you get...
But let's say if you didn't move it from that. So once you enter your data, highlight your points, right, and then go to Insert, choose Scatter Plot, and then if you right-click on one of the points and choose Add Trend Line, you can then set it up. It's a polynomial equation, so it's not a linear form. It's polynomial with a degree of 2 or an order of 2, and then just hit Display the equation. And when you do that, it'll give you that form. And then, like I said from before, if you needed it to be everything to 4 decimal places, just double-click on the box containing the equation, select select number to change how it's formatted, and then change it to 4 decimal places, and now everything will be to 4 or 5 or whatever you need.